We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph in Mesechet Sanhedrin. This is Sanhedrin Daf 101a. On the previous Amud, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi said another interpretation of the pasuk Sefer Mishlei, which says Kol Yemei Ani Roim, that all the days of the poor are bad. That's referring to someone Shedaito Kitzara. It's referring to somebody whose Daito is Kitzara. Rashi has two explanations. Rashi explains Shedaito Kitzara Mesim Lalibo Kol Daigos Chavero. First explanation of Rashi is the person, he places in his heart all of the worries of his friend. V'doeg al kol he's worrying about everybody, somebody who's is worried about everything, someone who's worried about everything, that's Kol Yemei Ani Roim, that's all the days of the poor are bad. Rashi gives another explanation, Lish Nachrin, another explanation, Daito Kitzara. What does it mean, Daito Kitzara? Ragzan, it means that somebody who gets angry, again, somebody who gets angry, all of his days are bad. And then the pasuk continues, V'tov leiv mishtetamid, is somebody who has a good heart, so he's always feasting. What's that referring to? Says Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, Zeh Daito Rechava, this is somebody who's tolerant, who's able to tolerate a lot of things. As Rashi explains, he doesn't place in his heart much worry, somebody who doesn't worry, so it's mishtatamid, so everything is always good. And the Gemara continues, V'yamar Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, and Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi says, Kol Yemei Ani Roim, again the pasuk said that all the days of the poor are bad, just according to the simple interpretation. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi asks, V'yika Shabbos v'yamim tovim, but what about Shabbos and Yom Tov? That's not a bad day, even for the poor. Rashi explains, V'yika Shabbos v'yamim tovim, she'en lo chani b'Yisrael, she'en lo ma'adon. There's not even the poorest among Klal Yisrael. They have what to eat on Shabbos and Yontif. So what does it mean? All the days of the poor are bad. And the Gemara answers to that. Kiddush Shmuel, the answer is like Shmuel says. Diyamar Shmuel, because Shmuel says Shinoi Ves, that if there's a change in routine, Tchilas Chole Meyayim, that's the beginning of having stomach illnesses. Rashi explains Shinoi Ves, Mishana Ves V'yochel Yoser Sheino Ragel. This poor person who doesn't eat a lot during the week, so now on Shabbos he's eating more than usual. Sheino Ragel Lechel, more than he's usually eating. Hainu Tchilas Chole Meyayim. So that's the beginning of having problems with the stomach. Lafika Chafilu Shabbos V'yamim Tovim Roim Lo. Therefore, even Shabbos and Yontiv are going to be bad for the poor person. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Hakore pasuk shel shir hashirim, if somebody reads a pasuk in shir hashirim, va'osa oso kamin zemer, and he puts it to music, he says it with a tune that's not the same as the normal tune of laning the pasuk, v'hakore pasuk bebeis mishtos below zmano, and somebody who reads a pasuk at a feast, at a celebration, not at the right time, either of those things, mevi ra liolam, the person who does that, he brings evil to the world, mimnei shahatorah chogeres sak, because the Torah, it wears sackcloth, v'omedes lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and it stands before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, v'omeres lefanav, and says before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribono shel olam, master of the world, asuni banecha kekinor, your sons, they're treating me, your children, they're treating me like a harp, shem nagnan bo leitzim, which clowns, they play a harp, that's how they're treating these psukim. Rashi explains, Hakore shir ashirim va'osa oso kamin zemer, it means shekore benegina acheres, he's reading these psukim with some other kind of tune, she'eno nokud, but not the tune of the trup. V'yosa osa kamin shir, he's making like a song. Afal pisha mishir hashirim, who, and the point over here is, even though this pasuk is from shir hashirim, v'ikaro shir, you're going to say the whole point of shir hashirim is that it should be like a song, so maybe you would think it's okay with shir hashirim. Asr laso so kamin shir ela b'kriya, so it's forbidden to make it with some other song, some other kind of tune. You have to read it with the proper notation, with the proper cantillation, and so therefore, again, that's why that's problematic, and would apply to other psukim as well. We're saying even by shir hashirim, it's problematic. Hakore pasuk bebeis hamishtos below zmano, if somebody reads a pasuk, again in a beis hamishtos, in a celebration, but not at the proper time, that's also mevi ra liolam, brings bad to the world. And Rashi explains, b'meisav alieno osa sechikosav b'divrei Torah, he's making jokes using psukim. V'kore psukim b'kol ram, he's reading psukim out loud, l'sachek b'bnei hamishta, so that the people at the feast, they'll be able to laugh. Avolim omro b'zmano ala mishta, but let's say it's the proper time and he says a pasuk. Kagon shu Yom Tov, let's say for example, it's Yom Tov v'notel kos biyado, he takes a cup in his hand, v'yomer olav divrei Haggadah, he says some kind of drush, some kind of Haggadah on the pasuk, psukim mein yana shel yom, it's psukim that have to do with the day, so that's already okay, that's maybe tova liolam, that's going to bring good to the world. And the Brisa continues with the response of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the Torah, Amar lo, he says to her, Biti, my daughter, b'shasha ochlin v'shosin, at the time that they're eating and drinking and celebrating, so what should they do at that time if you don't want them to turn the psukim into these kind of songs? What should they do at that time? Amra fun of Ribona Shalom. So she said before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Master of the world, in Baalei Mikrahein, this is what they should do. If they're people who know Psukim, so then Yasku b'Torah v'Neviim u'Ksuvim, so then they should deal with Torah, Neviim, and Ksuvim. In Baalei Mishnah, if they're people who know Mishnah, Yasku b'Mishnah, b'Halachos of Haggadah, so then they should deal with Mishnah and Halacha and Agadata. In Baalei Talmud, and if they know the Talmud, Yasku b'Hilchas Pesach b'Pesach, then they should deal with the Halachas of Pesach and Pesach, b'Hilchas Atzeres b'Atzeres, with the Halachas of Shavuos and Shavuos, b'Hilchas Chag b'Chag, and with the Halachas of Sukkos and Sukkos. And the Gemara continues, Hey, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Mishum Rabbi Shimon ben Chananya. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar testified in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Chananya, Kol HaKorei Pasuk Bizmano. Anybody who reads the Pasuk in the proper time, as Rashi mentioned, Mevi Tova Liolam, that brings good to the world. Shenamar, as it says in the Pasuk, in Mishlei V'davar B'ito Matov, something in its proper time, that is good. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, V'halochesh al hamaka, one who whispers incantations over a wound to that person also does not have a share in Olam Haba. And the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yochanan says, Uverokek ba, this is problematic when the person spits on it. Lefisha ein mazkirin shem shamayim ala rakika. And the problem is, you're not allowed to mention the name of Hashem after spitting. And Rashi here explains, Uverokek, shekein derech malachshem, it was the way of these people who would whisper these incantations, larake kodem halachash, before they would whisper, they would spit. V'yasser lahazkir pasuk ala lachisha, it would be yasser to mention a pasuk after, it would be yasser to mention this pasuk on the lachisha, again on the whispering, on the incantation. And so therefore that's why it's specifically problematic when the person spits. Rashi notes there are certain kinds of incantations that the person would actually spit afterwards. And also they would say it in a foreign language. They would mention the name of Hashem in a foreign language. And so there, for that, Rebbe is saying that's mutter, because the only problem is when a person does the incantation after spitting, then it looks like he's mentioning Hashem's name, and that's going on the spitting. And furthermore, it's only aser b'lashon hakodesh, avol belaz lo, but if it's in a foreign language, then it is not a problem. And the Gemara continues, Itmar, it was stated, Rav Omar afilu negat saras. Rav says it's even by negat saras, that kind of a pasuk, we'll see Rashi in a moment, that's a problem. Rabbi Chanina says, afilu vayikra el Moshe, even a pasuk like a vayikra el Moshe, that is a problem. Rashi explains, afilu negat saras, afilu lochesh kra deles be shem shamayim. What Rav is saying is, even if a person, he whispers a pasuk that does not have the name of Hashem, al harakik, and he does this again on after spitting, shekore negat saras, kisiya ba'adam v'huva el l'shem refuah, he mentions that pasuk of negat saras, and he's doing that l'shem refuah. Ein lo chelak li'olam haba. Rav is saying even in that situation he has no portion in the world to come. V'afilu vayikra el Moshe. Then Rabbi Chanina said it's true even by a pasuk like vayikra el Moshe she'ein bo lo choli v'lo nega. That pasuk doesn't mention any kind of illness, doesn't mention any kind of tzaras. De'ein roi l'lochsho al hamaka. You shouldn't even be mentioning such an incantation, such a pasuk as an incantation over a wound. Ve'ein mazkiru l'shem refuah ela kesavar hu linatzel b'zchus divrei Torah. The person who's mentioning it, he's not even mentioning it l'shem refuah, for the healing. What he's thinking is that he'll mention this pasuk, and through the zechus of divrei Torah he'll be healed. Show his kir aser l'locha. Show even doing that is going to be problematic according to Rabbi Chanina. That is going to be forbidden. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Sachin u'mamashmashin b'vnei meyayim b'Shabbos. A person is allowed to anoint and rub the stomach on Shabbos, and Rashi explains, u'mamashmashin b'meyayim shel chola b'Shabbos. We're talking here about someone who's ill. You're rubbing oil on the person's stomach on Shabbos. Ve'in bekach mishum refuah. It's not a problem of refuah healing on Shabbos is usually problematic, but it's not a problem to sicha iskish l'shasiya, because anointing is compared to drinking, and therefore it is okay. Again, it's okay to be sachin and mamashmashin b'fnei meyayim b'Shabbos. And the Brisa continues, v'lochashin l'chishas nechashim ve'akravim b'Shabbos. You're also allowed to whisper the incantations for snakes and scorpions on Shabbos, and Rashi explains, v'lochashin al nechashim ve'akravim b'Shabbos b'shvil shelo yaziku. You're allowed to whisper these incantations so that they shouldn't do damage, the snakes and scorpions. Ve'in bekach mishum tzeda. It's not a problem of tzeda. Maybe one would think it's like trapping the snakes and scorpions on Shabbos. That is not a problem. And the Brisa continues, u'ma'avir and kli al gav ha'ayin b'Shabbos. You're also allowed to put a vessel on top of the eye on Shabbos. Again, we're talking here about an ailment that's occurring to the eye, and therefore you're using this vessel, you're placing it on top of the eye to heal. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says, B'med devarim amurim. When is this this true? Bechli hanitel, that's talking when you're using a vessel that's allowed to be moved on Shabbos that's not muksa. Avol bekli she'eno nitel aser, but if it would be a vessel that's not allowed to be moved on Shabbos, that cannot be taken on Shabbos, it would be forbidden. Ve'ein sho'alin b'dvar shedim b'Shabbos, and the Brisa says you're not allowed to ask from the shedim, from the demons on Shabbos. Rabbi Yossi says af b'chol aser, that would be aser even on a weekday. It's not only problematic on Shabbos. Amar Rav Huna says halacha Rabbi Yossi, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that it's forbidden even on a weekday. V'af Rabbi Yossi lo amra ela mishum sakana, and even Rabbi Yossi, he only said it because of sakana, because of the danger. Rashi explains kli al ha'ayin, putting a vessel on the eye. Shekein derech litin kli matchis al ha'ayin kedei lakar ha'ayin. They would take a metal vessel and place it on the eye in order to cool off the eye. And again, kli hanitel, it has to be a vessel that's taken kagon mafteach sakin v'tabas, like a key, a knife, a ring. Those are things that are not muksa. And bidvar shedim, to ask shedim shekein osin k'she'ovdin shum davar. They would ask of the demons when they lost something. Shoalin b'maisa shedim, they would ask the demons ve'im magidim lehem, and the demons would tell them where the lost object is. V'yasser lasos b'Shabbos, that's something that's forbidden to do on Shabbos. Mishum mimtzo cheftzucha, because again you're not supposed to do weekday things on Shabbos. And Rashi continues. Rabbi Yossi then said in the Brisa, af b'chol aser, even on weekdays it's aser, lishol b'shedim, to ask of the demons, k'dim mefarsh l'kamon, mishum sakana, as will be explained, because of danger. And the Gemara continues and it gives an example of the danger. Kihad Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, it's like the incident with Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, the Ivla be'arza, he was swallowed by a cedar tree, ve'savid le'nisa paka arzo palte, then a miracle happened and the cedar tree split and it released him. And Rashi explains, Kihad Rav Yitzchak hayashoel b'maisa shedim, he was asking demons, ubikesh hashed l'haziko, and the demon wanted to damage him, v'nasa lo nes, and this miracle happened, uvelo ha'eres, he was swallowed up by the cedar tree, and that's how he was protected. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbon, and the rabbis taught, Sachinu memashmashin b'vnei meyayim b'Shabbos, a person is allowed to anoint and rub the stomach area on Shabbos, uvilvad shelo yasa kiderech shuosa b'chol, as long as he does not do it in the same fashion that he would do it on a weekday. And the Gemara says, hey Chiyavid, what exactly should he do? Rabbi Chama, Rabbi Chanina says, Soch v'yachar kach memashmesh, what he should do is anoint and then rub. That would be a different way from the weekday. Rabbi Yochanan says, Sochu memashmesh b'vasachas, he should anoint and rub at the same time. And Rashi explains, Soch v'yachar kach memashmesh haveshinoi, that would be considered doing it in a different fashion. To bechol derech lemashmesh v'yachar kach l'such, because on the weekday it was done the opposite way. First they would rub and then they would put on the oil. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbon, and the rabbis taught, Sarei Shemen v'Sarei Beitzim, these are shedim which they would consult through using oil, or shedim that they would consult through using eggs. Mutter lishol behen, it's mutter to ask of those demons, of those shedim. El lememnesha mechazvin, however they lie, and so people wouldn't do that, they wouldn't ask those demons. Lochshin al shemen shebekli, they would whisper incantations over the oil that was in a vessel, ve'ein lochshin al shemen shebeyad, but they wouldn't whisper those incantations if the oil was in a person's hand. Lafikach, therefore, sachin mi shemen shebeyad, a person can anoint using the oil of the hand, ve'ein sachin mi shemen shebekli, but cannot anoint using the oil that's in a vessel. And Rashi explains, Sarei Shemen, Yesh Maisa Shedim Shasholan Al Yedei Shemen, there were certain kinds of Maisa Shedim, of asking of demons, that it was done through oil, V'karilu Sarei Shemen, V'hainu Sarei Boen, that was referred to as Sarei Shemen, V'yesh Hasholan B'shvo Fereshel Beitzah, V'kariluhu Sarei Beitzim, sometimes they asked again through the egg, and that was called Sarei Beitzim. Elisha Mechazvin, however they lie, L'kach Nimnu Milishol Behen, that's why they didn't do that, they refrained from asking them. Lochshem Al Shemen Shebekli, and then it said that we can whisper the incantations over the oil in a vessel, meaning osan ha'osin ma'isa shedim, those people who do the ma'isa shedim, darchon lilchosh al shemen shebekli, they would normally whisper the incantations over the oil in a vessel, ve'ein darchon lilchosh al shemen shebiyad, they would not do that over oil in the hand, she'eno moel, it was not effective. Lefikach, therefore, adam yachol lasoch al yadam shemen shebiyad, a person is able to anoint with that oil on his hand from oil that was in the hand, ve'ein lochash, and you don't have to be concerned, shemen nasa bo ma'isa shedim, that maybe this was used for ma'isa shedim, you don't have to be concerned of any danger from the demon, because again, that's not the fashion that they would whisper those incantations. And the Gemara continues, Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel Bar Marasa Ikla Lahu Shpiza. Rav Yitzchak Bar Shmuel Bar Marasa, he went to a particular inn. Aisi Le Mishcha B'mana, they brought him some oil that was in a vessel, shaf, and then he used it, he smeared it. Nafkan Leit Simche Be'ape, and then on his face there appeared all these kinds of boils. Nafak L'shuk, he went out to the marketplace. Chazisa Ha'i'itasa, a certain woman saw him. Amran, she said, Zeka de Chamos Kachazina Hach, I see over here, this person was affected by Chamos. Rashi over here explains, Shaf sach shemen b'fanav, again he put the oil on his face, tzumachin avabuos, he had boils, and zeka de chamas means ruach, the spirit, shaloso shade sheshmo chamas, of a particular demon who's called chamas, ani roa b'fanecha shachazas, I see that it has taken over your face, that's why you have these boils on your face, that's what the woman commented, and so therefore avdal le'mil, so she did something for him, v'itasi, and then he was healed. Amar le Rabbi Abba l'Rabbi Bar Mori, Rabbi Abba said to Rabbi Bar Mori, ksiv, it's written in the pasuk, kol hamachal asher samti b'Mitzrayim, all of the illnesses that I placed in Mitzrayim, lo asim alecha, I won't place upon you, ki ani Hashem rofecha. The pasuk finishes that I am Hashem who heals you. And so the Gemara continues with the Rabbi Abba's question, v'chi me'acha shalosam. Now, if the illnesses never happen, so refuah lama, so what do we need the healing for? What does the pasuk mean? That I haven't placed the illness upon you, ki ani Hashem rofecha, because I am Hashem that heals you. The healing is not necessary. Amar le, so he said to him, hachi amar Rabbi Yochanan, this is what Rabbi Yochanan says, mikra zeh me'atzmo nidrash. You can understand this pasuk from the pasuk itself if you read the full context of the pasuk shenemar, because it says, vayomerim shamoa tishma lakol Hashem elokech. It says if you listen to the voice of Hashem, meaning im tishma lo asim. If you listen, then I won't place, you won't have the illness at all. V'im lo tishma, but if you don't listen asim, then I will place, meaning you will have the illness. But afal bichein, but nevertheless, ki ani Hashem rofecha, I am Hashem who heals you, so you'll get the illness, but you will be healed. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rabbi Bar Chana, Rabbi Bar Chana says, Kishachol Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Eliezer became ill, Nichnasu Talmidav Levakro, his students came to visit him. Amar Laheni said to them, Chama Aza Yesh Ba'olam, there is an intense anger in the world, Hischilu Hein Bochen, they began to cry, Rabbi Akiva Mesachik, but Rabbi Akiva, he laughed. Amar Lo, they said to him, Lamata Mesachik, what are you laughing for? Amar Laheni said to them, V'chim Ipnei Ma'atam Bochen, why are you crying? Amar Lo, they said to him, Efshar Sefer Torah, Shorei B'tzar, is it possible that a Sefer Torah, referring here to Rabbi Eliezer, is in pain, v'lo nivken, we shouldn't cry. Amar Laheni said to them, Lakachani Mesachik, that's why I'm laughing. Calls Manshani Roa Rebbe. The entire time that I saw Rebbe, She'ein Yeno Machmitz, Vein Pishtano Loka, Vein Shamno Mavish, Vein Devshano Madvish, I saw that his wine wasn't spoiling, nothing was happening to his flax, his oil, his honey, none of that was going bad. So Amarti, so I said, Shama Chas V'Shalom Kibel Rebbe Olamo, maybe Chas V'Shalom, Rebbe's already received his entire world, maybe he's already gotten his entire reward, he won't have anything in the world to come. But now that I see Rebbe in pain, I'm happy because I know that he's being punished for his sins now, he'll get his reward in the world to come. Amar Lo, he said to him, Akiva, klum chisarti min haTorah kula. Rabbi Eliezer said to Rabbi Akiva, is there anything that I missed from the Torah? What am I being punished for? What sins do I have? Amar Lo, he said to him, Limadatanu Rabbeinu, you taught us, Rabbi, ki adam ein tzadik baretz asher yaseh tov v'lo yecheta. There is no person in the world who does completely good, who's never sinned. Everybody has some sins. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Kishachol Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Eliezer was sick, Nichnasu Arbaz, Zekanim Levakro, 4 elders came to visit him. They were Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Akiva. They were Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva. Nana Rabbi Tarfon v'yam Rabbi Tarfon, he said as follows, Tova Tali Yisrael, you are better for Klal Yisrael, mitipa shel geshamim, you're even better than a drop of rain. Shatipa shel geshamim ba'olam hazeh, because a drop of rain is only good for this world. V'Rebbe ba'olam hazeh v'olam haba, but Rebbe is good for this world and the world to come. Nana Rabbi Yeshua v'yam Rabbi Yeshua answered and said as follows, Tova Tali Yisrael yosem migalgal chama, you're greater for Klal Yisrael than the galgal chama, the sphere of the sun. Shagalgal chama ba'olam hazeh, because the sun is good for this world. V'Rebbe ba'olam hazeh v'olam haba, Rebbe is good for this world and the world to come. Nana Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah v'yam Rabbi Lazar ben Azariah answered and said, Tova Tali Yisrael yoser me'av v'aim, you're better for Klal Yisrael more than a father and a mother. Sha'av v'aim ba'olam hazeh, because a father and a mother is in this world. V'Rebbe ba'olam hazeh v'olam haba, and Rebbe is in this world and in the world to come. Nana Rabbi Akiva v'yam, Rabbi Akiva answered and said as follows, Chavivin Yisurin, that Yisurin are beloved, it's a good thing to have afflictions. Amar Lemi said to them, Samchuni v'yeshma divrei Akiva, support me that I can hear the words of Akiva Talmidai, the words of Akiva my student. Shamar Chavivin Yisurin, who's saying that Yisurin, that afflictions are beloved. Amar Lo Akiva Zumin Ein Lach, he said to him, Akiva, where do you get this from? Amar, he said, Mikrani Dorish, I'm darshaning a pasuk. Ben Shtei Mesrei Shana Menashe b'Molcho, it says that Menashe was 12 years old as king. V'chamishim v'chomei Shana Molach b'Yerushalayim, it says he was king for 55 years in Yerushalayim. V'yas harab b'nei Hashem, he did what was evil in the eyes of Hashem, Uchsiv, and it's written in the pasuk, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kof Aleph Amud Beis.